Combat Master Zilax's undefeated championship record just ended in 1.4 seconds, and the human instructor hasn't even moved her feet. "Replay that," Director Kalthas demanded from the observation deck, his four eyes locked on the training mat below. Immediately. On the mat, Emma Rodriguez stood in the exact same neutral stance she'd held for the past 5 minutes, feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, hands relaxed at her sides. Zilax, decorated Crithian combat master and 3-time galactic tournament champion, lay flat on his back beside her, staring at the ceiling with all 6 of his limbs splayed out in complete disorientation. The 50 elite alien warriors, comprising Advanced Combat Class 7 Alpha, remained frozen, their various appendages locked mid-gesture, mouths hanging open across a dozen species. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. The silence pressed down like physical weight. "What?" Zilax finally managed, his mandibles clicking in confusion. "What just happened?" Emma glanced down at him with mild concern. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. "You okay? Nothing hurt?" No, but I don't understand. I struck with full demonstration speed. You didn't block. You didn't dodge. You didn't even..." He rolled to his feet with the fluid grace of a lifetime warrior. "You didn't move your feet." "Nope," Emma agreed cheerfully. "Then how am I on the mat?" "Physics," she shrugged. "Anyone catch what happened?" 50 pairs of alien eyes stared blankly. In the observation deck, Kalthas rewound the footage and played it at quarter speed, then 1/8 speed, then frame by frame. "This is impossible," muttered Vex Thule, the Gorath heavy combat specialist in the front row. His rocky carapace shifted with agitation. "The human's center of mass didn't transfer. The counter-momentum vector doesn't exist in the data." "Play it again," Kalthas ordered the combat AI. His manipulator tentacles coiled tight with stress. The holographic replay materialized above the mat. Zilax approached, telegraphing a standard demonstration strike. Right cross aimed at center mass, 70% power, textbook Crithian form. Emma's stance didn't change. Her feet stayed planted, but somehow, impossibly, as Zilax's fist reached her, his entire trajectory curved. His momentum redirected along an arc that shouldn't exist, using an axis point that wasn't there, and he found himself airborne, then grounded, controlled completely, with Emma's hand resting lightly on his shoulder. 1.4 seconds, beginning to end. "Computer," Kalthas said slowly, "analyze the human's defensive technique." "Unable to classify," the AI responded. "Technique does not match any combat doctrine in the database. Force redirection occurred without corresponding counterforce generation. No leverage point identified. Movement violates standard combat physics models." "It violates..." Kalthas's translator sparked, trying to find adequate expression for his dismay. "Get me fleet combat command. Now." On the mat, Emma noticed the growing panic in the observation deck. "Look, it's really not that complicated. You want to try again, Zilax? I can slow it down." The Crithian master's pride flickered across his facial plates. He was a warrior who'd trained for 60 standard years, who'd defeated champions from 30 species, whose techniques were studied across 4 quadrants. And this human, this small, unaugmented, soft-skinned human who taught cultural exchange combat methods 3 days a week, had just neutralized him using a technique that apparently violated physics. "Yes," he said firmly. "Full demonstration speed. I need to understand." Emma nodded. "Whenever you're ready." Zilax reset, breathing through his mandibles, centering his 6 limbs. This time he'd pay attention. This time he'd see the trick. He launched forward. Same strike, same speed, same... 1.3 seconds later, he was on the mat again. "Okay," Emma said, still standing in exactly the same spot. "Did you feel it that time?" "Feel what?" Zilax gasped. "I felt nothing." That's the problem. There was no impact, no resistance, no counterstrike, just suddenly the world rotating and he gestured helplessly at the ceiling. Right, exactly, Emma smiled. No resistance. That's the whole point. That's impossible, Vexthul rumbled. Combat requires force exchange. Action, reaction. You can't redirect an attack without countering force. Sure you can, Emma looked around the class. Who else wants to try? 20 hands, tentacles, and appendages shot up immediately. Vexthul, you're up. Hit me for real this time. Controlled, but real power. The Gorath lumbered forward, his massive frame making the mat shudder. He outweighed Emma by at least 400 pounds. His combat record included 17 confirmed kills against hostile borders. His species' hide could deflect small arms fire. He drove forward with a strike that hissed through the air. 1.2 seconds. The Gorath hit the mat with a thunderous impact that cracked 2 panels. Emma hadn't moved her feet. Her stance remained neutral, relaxed, almost casual. What? Vexthul said into the stunned silence. In the name of the founders, was that? Basic Tai Chi, Emma said. We teach this to 8-year-olds back home. In the observation deck, Kael'thas watched his communication panel light up with incoming priority signals. Fleet Combat Command, Academy Board, Strategic Defense Analysis, all demanding explanations for the footage that was apparently already spreading through military networks. Director, the communications officer said nervously, Fleet Admiral Jitaro is requesting immediate live feed to this class. Grant it, Kael'thas said, his voice hollow. They need to see this. On the mat, Emma was fielding questions that her students were asking with increasing desperation. How do you generate the counterforce? Asked a Velian pilot. I don't. I redirect your force. But the leverage point is my route. Connection to the ground through proper stance. Then the stance must be incredibly rigid. Nope, it's relaxed. Rigidity is force meeting force. I'm doing the opposite. Then how? Emma sighed and looked at Xilax. Want to help me demonstrate? Slowly this time? The Crithian approached cautiously. Emma talked through it step by step, letting him strike in slow motion while she explained. See, you're telegraphing everything through your shoulder. I can feel your intention before you move. So I'm already ready, not to block, but to listen. When your strike comes, I don't meet it. I blend with it. Your force goes into my arm, down through my structure, into the ground, and back out along a path I choose. She guided his fist along an arc, showing how her entire body acted as a conduit. You're not hitting me, you're hitting the planet, and the planet doesn't care about your punch. But you're moving my strike, Xilax protested. That requires force. Not force, structure, and timing, and sensitivity to your energy. She demonstrated again, this time with 3 students simultaneously. 3 different strikes from 3 different angles, and Emma stood like a rock in a stream, letting the attacks flow around and past her, redirecting each with minimal hand movements, feet never shifting. All 3 attackers ended up controlled, off balance, neutralized. This is impossible, Vexthul repeated, but his voice held wonder now instead of disbelief. It's not impossible, Emma said, laughing. It's just unfamiliar. Your entire combat doctrine is based on force meeting force. Harder, faster, stronger. You're all trying to be the bigger hammer. Because that's what works, Xilax said. In every engagement simulation, every combat scenario, superior force wins. Against opponents who only know force, sure, Emma shrugged. But what happens when you meet someone who doesn't play by those rules? Someone who turns your force into their advantage? The class went silent. In the observation deck, Fleet Admiral Jitaro's hologram materialized beside Director Kael'thas. The Admiral's species didn't have facial expressions humans could read, but his entire posture radiated urgency. Explain this, Jitaro said flatly, gesturing at the mat below. I can't, Kael'thas admitted. The human is demonstrating combat techniques that our AI can't classify and our physics models can't explain. The Supremacy Council is watching this feed right now. They're asking if we've discovered a new human weapon system. It's not a weapon, Kael'thas struggled. It's a martial art, a human cultural practice. A cultural practice that defeats our best warriors effortlessly. On the mat, Emma was explaining concepts that made the translator algorithms struggle. Okay, so in external martial arts, which is what you all practice, power comes from muscular force, speed, leverage. You tense, you strike, you impact. But internal martial arts work differently. We develop internal energy, we cultivate sensitivity, we use structure instead of strength. Internal energy? A Keelian student's translator hiccuped on the phrase. You mean metabolic? No, I mean, Emma paused, thinking. Okay, bad translation. Think of it as connected power. My whole body works as one unit, rooted to the ground, with no breaks in the energy chain. When you strike me, you're not hitting my arm. You're hitting my whole body, connected to the planet. She turned to Zilax. Here, push my hand, hard as you can. The Crithian placed both hands against Emma's single outstretched palm and pushed with enough force to dent plasteel. Emma's arm didn't budge, her feet didn't move, but somehow Zilax found himself sliding backward, his own force redirected through angles that shouldn't exist. How? He breathed. Rooting, Emma said simply. And listening. I feel where your force wants to go, and I help it go there, just not where you intended. This is a security issue, Jotaro said in the observation deck. If one human with basic training can neutralize multiple combat specialists. She said they teach this to children, Kael'thas interrupted quietly. The Admiral's hologram flickered with what might have been the equivalent of a grimace. Then we need to understand it, immediately, add this to required training protocols. Below, Emma had Zilax attempting the technique himself. Okay, relax your shoulders. No, really relax them. You're holding tension in all 6 limbs. Drop your weight down, feel your feet on the mat. Now, when Vexthul pushes you, don't resist. Let the force come in, down through your structure, and bounce back out. Zilax tried, failed, tried again. On the 5th attempt, something clicked. When Vexthul pushed, the Goroth suddenly found himself redirected, stumbling past Zilax's position as the Crithian stood firm. I felt it! Zilax's mandibles clicked excitedly. Just for a moment, I felt the connection, the path the force wanted to take. There you go, Emma grinned. That's the beginning. Takes most people a few years to really develop, but you've got the concept now. A few years? Vexthul rumbled. How long have you trained? Me personally, 23 years, but I'm not a master or anything. I just teach the basics. The class stared at her. If you're not a master, Zilax said slowly, then what can a human master do? Emma laughed. Oh, you don't want to know. There's a 70-year-old grandmaster back home who can redirect strikes without touching you. Just moves the air right, and your attack curves away. It's wild. That's impossible, 3 students said simultaneously. Yeah, you keep saying that. Emma checked the chronometer on the wall. Look, we're running over time. Let's do one more demonstration, then we'll break. Who wants to see me handle multiple simultaneous attackers? Every hand went up. Okay, I need 5 volunteers. Attack pattern random, don't coordinate. Just come at me when you feel like it. 5 warriors from 5 different species approached the mat. Emma settled into her stance, the same neutral, relaxed position she'd held the entire class. Whenever you're ready, she said. They came from all angles, staggered by half-seconds, different speeds and trajectories and strike types. Emma's feet stayed planted, her stance didn't change, but her upper body moved like water, like wind, touching each attack just enough to guide it away. Redirect it into empty space, send each attacker stumbling past or spinning off balance. 7 seconds of fluid motion that looked effortless, looked simple, looked like the most impossible thing the Academy had ever recorded. When the dust settled, 5 elite warriors lay on the mat in various states of confusion, and Emma stood exactly where she'd started, breathing normally, not even sweating. "And that," she said cheerfully, "is why you never assume stillness means defenseless." In the observation deck, Fleet Admiral Jataro's hologram turned to Kale Thas. "I want every combat instructor in the fleet trained in this technique within 6 months, and I want a full delegation sent to Earth to study these internal martial arts comprehensively." "Yes, Admiral." "Also," Jataro paused, "find out what else the humans have that we've been assuming is just cultural practice. If their combat arts can do this, what else have we been missing?" Kael'thas nodded slowly, watching Emma help the 5 attackers to their feet, explaining what she'd done to each one in turn, her tone patient and encouraging. "Everything, Admiral. I suspect we've been missing everything." 3 months later, Emma's class had a waiting list of 2,000 students. Zilax served as her assistant instructor, having dedicated himself to mastering the redirect principles with the same intensity he'd once devoted to Crithian combat forms. The Academy's combat doctrine had been updated to include what they now called human-style adaptive flow techniques, and delegations from 30 species were enrolled in intensive training programs. Emma stood before her current class, an advanced group that included several combat specialists who'd been practicing for the full 3 months. They still struggled with the basics, but they were beginning to understand the principle. "Okay," she said, settling into her stance. "Remember, it's not about strength. It's about structure, timing, and sensitivity. Zilax, demonstrate the push hands drill with me." The Crithian stepped forward, and they began the exercise, palms touching, each applying gentle pressure, feeling for weaknesses in the other's structure. To outside observers, it looked like nothing. To the practitioners, it was a conversation in force and balance, each trying to find the other's center and uproot it. "See how he's searching?" Emma narrated to the class. "He's listening through his touch, feeling where I'm weighted, where I'm vulnerable, and I'm doing the same. It's like a very polite fight where nobody moves their feet." Zilax suddenly found an opening and pressed. Emma's structure yielded, redirected, and he stumbled forward as his own force betrayed him. "Better," Emma said. "You're telegraphing less. Give it another 5 years. You might actually get me." 5 years, Zilax muttered, but his mandibles clicked with amusement. 3 months ago, I would have considered that an insult. Now I consider it encouragement. That's growth right there." Emma grinned and turned to the class. "Pair up and practice the drill. Remember, no forcing, no muscling through. If you have to use strength, you're doing it wrong. Find the structure, listen to the energy, let the technique work through you, not because of you." As the students paired off and began their awkward attempts at push hands, Emma walked among them, making corrections, adjusting postures, explaining principles that her species had spent millennia developing. In the observation deck, Kael'thas watched with Director Talana from the Supremacy Council. "The preliminary combat assessment results are remarkable," Talana said. "Students who've completed just 30 days of this training show a 40% improvement in close combat effectiveness. Because they're learning to read opponents differently," Kael'thas explained. "They're developing sensitivity to intention and structure instead of just reacting to visible motion." The Council wants to know if this represents a security concern. If humans can do this naturally, they can't. It takes them years of training too. Kael'thas gestured at Emma. "She's been practicing for 23 years, and she's still not considered a master by human standards." Talana's translator emitted what might have been a worried hum. "Then what can their actual masters do?" "I've been researching that. Apparently there are documented cases of human masters redirecting multiple attackers without physical contact. They manipulate air pressure, spatial awareness, psychological intimidation, all subtle effects that combine into effective defense." "That sounds like psionics." "It's not. It's just highly developed skill. The humans have been refining these arts for thousands of years." On the mat below, Emma was helping a Velian student understand rooting. "Feel your feet. Really feel them. Every subtle shift in weight, every point of contact. Your feet are your connection to everything solid in the universe. Use that. The student tried again. This time, when his partner pushed, he held his ground for almost 2 full seconds before his structure collapsed. Better, Emma said. Did you feel how the force went down into the ground instead of pushing you back? That's the root working. Keep practicing that feeling. She moved to the next pair, correcting a Keelian student's posture. You're leaning. If you lean, you're already off balance. Stand like a tree, rooted below, flexible above. When the ion wind blows, the tree bends, but the roots hold firm. Zilax approached with a question from one of the advanced students. Emma, Specialist Arhill, wants to know if there are aggressive applications of these techniques. So far, we've only seen defensive redirects. Oh, sure, Emma said. But we usually don't teach the striking arts until students have the defensive principles down. Otherwise, they just default back to force meeting force. Can you demonstrate? Zilax asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Emma shrugged. Okay, but remember, this is the same principle, just applied offensively. Attack me like you mean it. The Crithian didn't hesitate. 3 months of practice had taught him to trust Emma's skill. He launched a full-power combination strike that would have incapacitated most opponents. Emma's feet finally moved, a single step, perfectly timed, that placed her inside his guard. Her palm touched his center with what looked like a gentle push. Zilax flew backward 6 feet and landed hard. That, Emma said calmly, is what happens when you redirect force into someone instead of around them. Same principle. I'm still using your energy, still rooted through my stance, still maintaining structure, but instead of guiding your force past me, I'm reflecting it back through your center. Zilax climbed to his feet, testing his limbs. That felt like being hit by a shuttle. Because you hit yourself, basically. I just provided the mirror and the angle. Emma helped him up. This is why we teach defense first. The aggressive applications are really dangerous if you don't understand the principle of not forcing. Students who learn striking first often end up damaging themselves. Noted, Zilax said fervently. The class continued for another hour, with students slowly, painfully beginning to grasp concepts that human children spent years absorbing through play and practice. By the end, several students had successfully redirected simple attacks. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't smooth, but it worked. As the class dismissed, Emma performed a brief demonstration of a classical Tai Chi form. A flowing sequence of movements that looked like a slow-motion dance but contained all the principles she'd been teaching. The students watched in awe as she moved through postures with names like White Crane Spreads Wings and Repulse Monkey, each movement containing multiple defensive and offensive applications that they were only beginning to understand. Same thing that dropped Zilax in 1.4 seconds, Emma said as she finished, settling back into neutral stance, just broken down into individual techniques so you can practice them. She checked her phone, a gesture so casually human that it made several students click their mandibles or rustle their appendages in what might have been laughter. Okay, I'm done for the day. Zilax, can you lock up? I'm supposed to meet Charlotte for dinner, and she found this place that supposedly does Earth-style Thai food. Of course, Zilax said. Then, more formally, thank you, instructor, for your patience with us. Hey, you guys are doing great. 3 months ago, you didn't even know this stuff existed. Now you're starting to feel the principles. Give it time. As Emma headed for the exit, Zilax watched her go. This small human who'd shattered his understanding of combat, who'd revealed entire dimensions of martial philosophy that his species had never considered, who treated cosmic paradigm shifts the way others treated lunch plans. Specialist Arhill, he called to one of the advanced students. Begin noting this in the training updates. If a human is standing still, it does not mean they are defenseless. It means they are already exactly where they need to be, and you are walking into their technique. Rahill's species didn't have expressions, but his posture suggested agreement. I will note it with highest priority marking. The new recruits should be warned. Indeed. Zilax looked down at the mat where he'd been defeated so effortlessly 3 months ago. If human instructors are this skilled, I do not want to imagine what their warriors are capable of. In the observation deck, Kael'thas and Talana reached the same conclusion simultaneously. We should probably avoid conflict with Earth, Talana said quietly. Yes, Kael'thas agreed. Very much yes. Below, Emma checked her messages while walking through the corridor, laughing at something Charlotte had sent, already thinking about dinner and whether that new Thai place would actually understand what spicy meant to human palates, the cosmic implications of her existence already forgotten as she transitioned seamlessly back to the mundane concerns of everyday life. Behind her, the Academy began the long process of rewriting everything they thought they knew about combat.